In this video tutorial, I'll be showing you how to do some post-render production in Photoshop after generating some rendered images in 3D Studio Max. What Photoshop allows us to do in post-production allows us to create some much more architecturally interesting images in terms of ones that have much more of an evocative feel and much more of an artistic impression as such. This is the file that I've been working with, and basically you can see that we've got some 3D massings that have been mapped onto just a flat surface, which is a JPEG image over here. When I render this file out, this is basically the image that we've got. So what we can see here is that there seems to be quite a disparity between the way that the masking sits on the JPEG base surface in terms of the color and the tone. And also another big issue that we've got here is the horizon line and also this big gray vacuum in which, this is blank empty space in 3ds Studio Max. So in Photoshop, this is the, the post-production rendered image that we've worked on, and I'm going to show you in this video tutorial how to add some simple, quick and easy lighting effects and how to create some lightness and contrast in the images to make it much more, evocative and stand out much more with a pop. So what I'll do is I'll open up the original rendered image in Photoshop, which is this guy over here. I'll begin with cropping the image so we could see what we'll be working with in terms of compositionally, so then we can begin to place certain aspects in the scene in terms of where we want the light to come from and where we want to draw focus to. I'm going to start off by cropping over here, so we can have a little bit of the base down here and a little bit of the sky. Then maybe I'll crop this guy in a bit more over here so we don't have so much empty spaces on the side and around, maybe about over here as such. So the first thing that I'm going to touch up on is the horizon line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the sky up here and bring it down to meet the sky over here, so then the horizon line is much more of a cohesive image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, with the rectangular marquee tool, just drag it across the sky over here. I'm going to select him. Then I'm going to press Control T. Then I'm just going to bring him down over here as such. When we zoom in though, we can still see that there's still a gray gap in between here, which we'll fix up. But another thing over here is that there's a gray gap over here on the sides. So what we'll do is we'll fill in this gray sides by using the image that we've got already over here as a reference, and we're going to fill in this gap over here. What we're going to do is use the clone tool. And then how the clone tool works is that it basically references a certain area of the image, and then from there it uses that image to basically brush and fill up the areas that we choose. So how we do this is just hold Alt. We select the area that we want to reference, and then we could just brush it away and paint it away as such. So now you can see that we've referenced the area over here and filled in over here. I'm now going to do the exact same to this side. So I'm going to do the same, click the clone tool, hold Alt, and I'm just going to paint him in. So as you can see, we've got a little bit of an area over here that's actually going beyond the horizon line, but that's not a worry because we can fix it. What we'll do again is just grab the skyline as we did before. We're going to copy him now, and we're going to paste it as a new layer. In the new layer, we're just going to grab him and bring him down a little bit so he's actually coming over the horizon line. And then what we're going to do now is that we're going to blur this horizon line by just grabbing the eraser tool and turning down the opacity and the flow so it's a little bit soft, and then we're just going to erase him a bit over here, and then that way the horizon line seems to be blurred a little bit more. I just might turn the opacity and the flow up a little bit so the eraser strength is a little bit stronger. So we're getting there now. So what this allows us to do is that it gives the impression that the horizon line is kind of blurring over, blurring over the horizon line with the sky and the earth, and it almost looks like it's nice and foggy. So it gives quite a nice abstract effect. Alright, so as now you can see that's been fixed if you compare it to the original where we started off over there. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is just going to add a sunlight into the scene. We're just going to do that with the brush tool again, a nice simple and easy trick. I'm just going to choose the color so it's nice and light and white. And what we'll do, also grab the brush and I'll just make that a little bit smaller. That seems to be a nice size over here. And then the brush that we want is these fuzzy ones with the boundary splitter, so it offers more of a gradient in which the brush kind of spreads out and looks a little bit more of like a sun. So in a new layer, which I'll call a sun, I'm just gonna basically just paint him in here, and that will do. Now the next stage for the lighting effect that I'm going to do is called the lens flare. The lens flare is basically, I guess it recaptures and kind of mimics the way how sometimes a camera captures, a lens flare while taking a photo with the reflection of the sun. So it's like a lens glare basically. How we're going to do that is that we're just going to create, on this layer of the sun layer, we're just going to click that, and then we're just going to go to filter, then go down to render, and then we're going to do a lens flare. With the lens flare, then we could select the area where we want the lens flare to be. I'll actually just try that again because that didn't come out. What I might actually do is that I'll create a new layer here. I'll recall this layer called a duplicated image layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the image over here. I'm going to hit apply image, and it's basically going to duplicate the image onto this layer. Then I'll go into the filter tab, and then I'll do my lens flare. There we go. So now we can see where the lens flare is going to be, and we could just select him so he's hovering over the sun. Maybe we'll place it over here, and we can also choose the brightness, and then we'll put it about over here. You can also choose the different lens type. For this specific one, we'll use with the 50 to 300mm zoom lens style. Yep. So then we'll hit OK. You can see now how the lens flare has come up. We'll just turn that opacity down just a little bit. So the next thing that we're going to do is add some lighting overlay. So you can see over here in which there's these yellow huey tones. What that does is that it gives it quite an artistic impression and quite evocative, but it also creates quite a strong contrast between the darker areas as such, and then the lighter areas in in the compositional rendering. I'm going to create a new layer and just call that image overlay. I'm then just going to select some yellowy color tones as such over here, and with the brush tool I'm just going to manually brush him in, just paint him in. The trick to this is having the opacity and the flow down so it's quite soft and subtle, because we don't want to overpower the image with too much overlaid yellow tones. So I'm just going to paint him in just like this. Then I might just erase him just a little bit more, because that was just quite a bit too much. And now, in the layers area over here, I'm just going to click overlay. And I'm just going to bring the opacity down just ever so slightly. Now that we've got this image overlaying of the light over here, the next thing I'm going to do is add a Gaussian blur layer to give it quite a dreamy and atmospheric feel, as you can see over here. What I'm going to do is just create a new layer. I'll call him blurred layer. And then what I'll do is I'll apply an image to that layer. So we're going to go to image, apply image, and do it to the blurred layer. What I'm going to do now is press Ctrl U and turn the saturation down so it's completely black and white. I'm now going to play around with the levels quite a bit to make it much more contrasting. So I'm going to pull the darkness lever up a bit, and the lightness lever up a little bit more too. So it's quite a contrast. Then what I'm going to do next is make this image a little bit blurred, and we're going to superimpose it onto the original image, and by doing so we'll make it look quite atmospheric. Basically just go into filter, blur, Gaussian blur. You can play around with it, but somewhere between, I reckon the 10 margin looks pretty good. So now we've got this blurred image. The last thing that we're going to do is just choose him and make it as an image overlay, and then just bring the saturation just down a little bit as such. And that's basically how to do it. So we compare this to the first rendered image in which we've done, that came straight out of 3D Studio Max. There seems to be quite a difference between the two. And thanks for watching the video tutorial, and hope this helps.